the haunting case of the Ravenwood murders. The small, picturesque town of Ravenwood was known for its serene landscapes and a tranquility that seemed untouched by time. Nestled between dense woods and a shimmering lake, it was a place where the inhabitants had always felt safe. That is, until the autumn of 1985, when a sinister crime cast a long, dark shadow over the town. The first signs of trouble came on a chilly October morning when Mary Dawson, a respected librarian, didn't show up for her regular shift at the Ravenwood Public Library. Concerned coworkers and friends went to her home, a cozy cottage with ivy-covered walls, tucked away at the edge of town. There, they found her lifeless body, her eyes wide open in an expression of abject terror. Rumors of her murder spread like wildfire, striking fear into the heart of Ravenwood. But no one could have anticipated that this was just the beginning of a nightmare that would grip the town for years to come. A week later, a local fisherman stumbled upon another gruesome scene. In the depths of the tranquil lake, he discovered the lifeless body of Robert Turner, the town's beloved baker, his life snuffed out in a cruel and violent manner. Fear settled over Ravenwood as news of this second murder spread. The town sheriff, Jack Donovan, found himself facing a case that seemed to defy explanation. With no witnesses and little physical evidence, he could only rely on his instincts and the assistance of his deputy, Amelia Sinclair, to piece together the puzzle. As the autumn leaves fell and the chill of winter descended, more murders followed, each more horrifying than the last. Panic rippled through Ravenwood as the residents grappled with the reality that a vicious and elusive killer was lurking in their midst. The victims were diverse, with no apparent connection to one another. A schoolteacher, a handyman, a nurse, and even the town's priest all fell victim to the ruthless assailant. Each murder was marked by a disturbing pattern, a cryptic message etched into the victim's flesh, written in a language no one could decipher. Sheriff Donovan's sleepless nights were filled with horrifying visions of the crime scenes and the unnerving symbols that haunted the victims' remains. The town's once tranquil streets grew desolate, and the sense of community that had once defined Ravenwood withered away. With no leads, the sheriff turned to the brilliant and reclusive linguist, Dr. Isabel Thornton, to decipher the enigmatic symbols left by the killer. Dr. Thornton arrived in Ravenwood, bringing with her a reputation as a codebreaker without peer. As days turned into weeks, Dr. Thornton meticulously analyzed the symbols and unraveled their hidden meanings. The messages were terrifying, revealing a mind steeped in madness. They spoke of ancient curses, vengeance, and promises of more death. With Dr. Thornton's breakthrough, the investigation took a new turn. The cryptic messages led the sheriff and his team on a dark path that twisted through the town's history, unveiling long-buried secrets and tales of forbidden rituals. It was as if the town itself was haunted by a malevolent force that had been awakened. The clues ultimately led to an old, abandoned mansion on the outskirts of town, known as the Blackwood House. The house had stood empty for decades, a place whispered to be cursed by the town's earliest settlers. As the sheriff and Dr. Thornton entered the dilapidated mansion, the air grew heavy with dread. In the dim, dusty rooms, they discovered a trove of ancient texts and relics that pointed to a sinister cult that had once thrived in Ravenwood. The cult had practiced dark rituals and invoked forbidden powers in the name of an ancient deity, seeking immortality and the power to claim souls. The leader of the cult, a man known as the Harbinger, had left behind writings that bore a chilling resemblance to the cryptic messages left by the killer. As the investigation delved deeper into the cult's history, it became clear that the murders were linked to a ritual that would grant the cult the ultimate power, the ability to transcend death itself. The victims were chosen as offerings to the malevolent deity, their lives sacrificed to fuel the dark magic of the cult's ultimate goal. In a climactic showdown at the Blackwood House, Sheriff Donovan, Dr. Thornton, and their team confronted the cult members who had survived over the decades. A harrowing battle ensued, as the cultists, desperate to complete the ritual, fought to protect their twisted legacy. The climax was a cacophony of chaos and malevolence, a final battle between good and evil, light and darkness. The walls of the mansion seemed to absorb the horrors that had unfolded within their confines, as the ancient deity raged against those who dared to defy its power. In the end, the cult was defeated, its members vanquished, and the curse that had plagued Ravenwood for generations was. Whispers in the Walls, the unsolved mystery of Whispering Pines. Whispering Pines was a tranquil, idyllic town nestled amidst the dense pine forests of northern Michigan. The townsfolk led simple lives, their days marked by the rustling of leaves, the babbling of the nearby river, and the gentle hush of the wind in the trees. It was a place where everyone knew their neighbor, and crime was as rare as a snowfall in midsummer. All of this changed in the spring of 1998 when an inexplicable crime shattered the peace of Whispering Pines. One seemingly ordinary morning, residents awoke to find the small, family-owned grocery store at the heart of their town desecrated. The scene was one of chaos and malevolence. The store's glass windows were shattered, the contents of the shelves strewn across the floor, and a sinister message smeared in crimson across the walls. Whispers in the Walls, it read, a phrase that would haunt the town for years to come. The store's owner, Sarah Jennings, lay lifeless behind the counter, her body a canvas of inexplicable horrors. Her life had been brutally extinguished, her death surrounded by a sense of profound malevolence. Word of the crime spread like wildfire, and panic descended upon the town. A meeting was called in the small community center, where the sheriff, David Anderson, stood before a distraught gathering of residents. He promised that justice would be served, and that Whispering Pines would not fall victim to the darkness that had descended upon it. As the investigation unfolded, it became clear that the crime was unlike anything the town had ever seen. The perpetrator had left a sinister calling card, one that hinted at a mind steeped in madness. The symbols etched on the walls of the store held a chilling message, one that spoke of ancient curses, vengeance, and a promise of more death to come. The townsfolk struggled to make sense of the crime. They were a close-knit community, with no history of such violence. But as the weeks turned into months, the feeling of unease settled in, and the once familiar streets grew haunted. The sheriff was relentless in his pursuit of the truth, but each lead seemed to unravel into nothingness. There were no witnesses, no discernible motive, and no connection between the victim and her assailant. The townspeople began to feel the weight of the unsolved crime bearing down on them. Whispers in the night, footsteps in the woods, and strange occurrences within their homes fueled their paranoia. The idyllic town had become a place of unease, its once tranquil streets now shadowed by the specter of fear. With each passing day, the town's innocence eroded, and the darkness of Whispering Pines deepened. The townsfolk clung to their superstitions and whispered tales of a malevolent force that had claimed their town as its own. As the years passed, the crime remained unsolved, a blight on the town's history. Sarah Jennings became a symbol of the tragedy, her memory honored by a simple plaque at the entrance of the grocery store, a stark reminder of the darkness that had befallen Whispering Pines. Sheriff David Anderson, too, became a victim of the crime, as the weight of the unsolved mystery consumed him. His relentless pursuit of justice cost him his health and his reputation, and he retired from the force, haunted by the whispers in the walls. Whispering Pines returned to a semblance of normalcy, but the scar of the unsolved crime remained. The townsfolk lived their lives, but their sense of safety had been forever shattered. The crime of 1998 would remain an enduring mystery, a story whispered from one generation to the next. It was a reminder that even the most peaceful places could be touched by darkness, and that the shadows held secrets that might never be unveiled. And so, the town of Whispering Pines lived on, its residents forever haunted by the whispers in the walls, a mystery that would remain unsolved, a malevolent force that refused to be forgotten. The echoes of Coldbrook, the vanishing of Sophie Montgomery. Coldbrook was a remote, unassuming town, nestled deep within the Appalachian wilderness. Its quaint homes and rolling hills gave the illusion of a picturesque, peaceful existence. Yet, beneath the serene facade, there lingered an enigma that would unravel the very fabric of the town. The incident began on a crisp autumn morning in 1996 when Sophie Montgomery, a 24-year-old artist, vanished without a trace. Sophie had lived alone in a charming cabin on the outskirts of Coldbrook, a place she had called home for the past 3 years. As the days passed without any word from Sophie, her friends and neighbors grew increasingly concerned. It was unlike her to vanish without notice, and they couldn't help but feel that something ominous was afoot. They reported her disappearance to the local sheriff, a grizzled veteran named Sheriff James Lawson. Lawson wasted no time in launching an investigation. He began by interviewing Sophie's closest friends and acquaintances, hoping to gather any information that might shed light on her sudden disappearance. What he uncovered was an enigmatic tale that led to an ominous revelation. The last known person to have seen Sophie was her friend, Amelia Wells, who had visited her cabin just days before she went missing. Amelia recalled an atmosphere of unease during her visit. Sophie had spoken cryptically about her latest painting, an eerie and unsettling masterpiece that she refused to show to anyone. Amelia, worried about Sophie's emotional state, urged her to confide in someone, but Sophie's response had sent shivers down her spine. "There are things beyond our understanding," Sophie had whispered, her eyes filled with fear, "and they watch from the shadows." Amelia's account sent chills down Sheriff Lawson's spine. The strange circumstances surrounding Sophie's disappearance had cast a pall over the town. It was as if an invisible darkness loomed over Coldbrook, its tendrils reaching out to claim one of its own. The investigation took a bewildering turn when Lawson discovered Sophie's unfinished painting in her cabin. It was a haunting work of art, depicting an otherworldly realm where grotesque figures lurked in the shadows. The longer one gazed upon it, the more a sense of foreboding seemed to take hold. As the days turned into weeks and then months, the town's sense of dread deepened. A series of bizarre incidents began to occur, each linked to the sinister painting. Townsfolk reported nightmarish visions, whispers in the darkness, and sightings of shadowy figures lurking in the woods. Lawson, desperate for answers, turned to an expert in the occult, Dr. Edgar Wainwright, a reclusive scholar known for his knowledge of the supernatural. Dr. Wainwright delved into the history of Coldbrook and uncovered an unsettling truth. Generations ago, the town had been founded by a secretive cult that had worshipped an ancient, malevolent deity. Their rituals had involved channeling dark energies into a cursed painting, a canvas that had become a portal to a realm beyond human comprehension. As Dr. Wainwright unraveled the occult connections, Lawson realized that Sophie's painting was more than a work of art, it was a conduit for the malevolent forces of the cult. The disappearance of Sophie had triggered an awakening, and the town was now a battleground for the forces of light and darkness. In a desperate bid to save Coldbrook, Lawson, Dr. Wainwright, and a small group of townsfolk ventured to Sophie's cabin, determined to confront the malevolent entity. As they entered the cabin, the eerie painting seemed to come alive, its grotesque figures moving within the frame. The battle that ensued was one of chaos and darkness, as the townsfolk fought against the ancient malevolence. Dr. Wainwright invoked incantations and protective spells, while Lawson confronted the sinister entities that threatened to consume the town. In the end, they managed to seal the cursed painting and banish the malevolent force, but not without a cost. Sophie remained missing, and the town of Coldbrook had been forever scarred by the events that had transpired. Coldbrook returned to a semblance of normalcy, but the memory of Sophie's vanishing and the malevolent painting would forever haunt the town. It was a cautionary tale of how the past could reach out to claim the present, and how the shadows held secrets that should never be uncovered. The echoes of Coldbrook would continue to resound through the years, a chilling reminder of the darkness that lurked within the depths of the human soul and the town's history, an enigma that would never truly be solved. The vanishing at Midnight Hollow. Nestled within the heart of New England, the town of Midnight Hollow had earned its name through centuries of eerie legends and ghostly tales. Its winding streets were lined with ancient, gnarled trees, and its history was a tapestry of the strange and unsettling. But nothing would prepare the town for the inexplicable disappearance of Mary Sinclair. It was a cold winter's night when Mary, a young and vibrant journalist, set out to uncover the secrets that lay shrouded in the town's history. Midnight Hollow had always been a place of intrigue, a locale where the veil between the living and the dead was believed to be at its thinnest. Mary's investigations had led her to tales of malevolent spirits, haunted estates, and forgotten curses. Armed with her notepad, camera, and an insatiable curiosity, Mary ventured to an abandoned mansion on the outskirts of town. The mansion was known as the Blackthorn Estate, a foreboding structure with a history of unexplained deaths and ghostly apparitions. The local residents whispered of a curse that hung over the mansion and the souls that had once resided there. As Mary delved deeper into the mansion's shadowy history, her camera clicked, capturing every eerie detail. It was said that the ghosts of the Blackthorn family still roamed the hallways, their mournful wails echoing through the night. But it was the story of one particular member, Eliza Blackthorn, that intrigued Mary the most. Eliza, a reclusive heiress, was rumored to have practiced forbidden arts within the mansion's hidden chambers. Her obsession with immortality had led to rituals that defied the laws of life and death. Mary believed that uncovering Eliza's story would be her ticket to journalistic fame, and she had every intention of revealing Midnight Hollow's darkest secrets. Hours turned into days as Mary explored the Blackthorn estate, her excitement and fear mingling with every discovery. She uncovered hidden rooms, arcane symbols, and cryptic writings that hinted at the forbidden rituals that had taken place within the mansion's walls. Then, one fateful night, as the clock struck midnight, Mary stumbled upon a concealed chamber beneath the mansion. In the chamber, she found an ancient grimoire, filled with incantations and spells meant to transcend the boundaries of life and death. It was the missing piece of the puzzle she needed to unveil the truth. As Mary delved deeper into the grimoire's contents, she began to recite the incantations, her voice trembling with a mix of fear and fascination. She had underestimated the power of the words she was uttering, and the room seemed to come alive with a malevolent force. The walls bled shadows, and the very air grew heavy with dread. It was then that Mary saw her reflection in a dusty mirror, and her reflection was not alone. The specter of Eliza Blackthorn appeared beside her, her eyes filled with a timeless sorrow. The specter of Eliza whispered a warning, her voice a mournful lament. "You have awakened forces beyond your understanding," she said, "and now you are bound to Midnight Hollow's eternal curse." Terrified, Mary tried to flee the chamber, but the very walls seemed to close in on her. She was trapped in a nightmarish labyrinth of shifting corridors, her footsteps echoing through endless darkness. As Mary's disappearance sent shockwaves through Midnight Hollow, a search party was organized. The townsfolk scoured the Blackthorn estate, but all they found were Mary's camera and notepad, abandoned in the shadowy chamber. The Blackthorn estate, once a place of fear, became a symbol of terror, and its legend grew darker with Mary's vanishing. The town was forever changed, and its history was now marred by the unresolved mysteries that shrouded the mansion and the brave journalist who had dared to uncover them. The disappearance of Mary Sinclair became a cautionary tale, a reminder that some secrets should remain buried, and that in Midnight Hollow, the line between the living and the dead was a thin, perilous thread. The town's name would forever be synonymous with the enigmatic, and its eerie legends would continue to haunt those who dared to seek the truth in the darkness.